talk, real people, real conversation. Week to week, this the place to get your inspiration. Go and sit back and unwind, sipping on your coldest glass of wine. This the home of girl bosses and the warriors. Went from tragedy to triumph and it's glorious. Ain't no question if they ask, they got that fire. This the podcast that came to Aspire. Welcome to Aspire Podcast, home of the real. Real talk, real people, real stories. Give it up one time for y'all hosts, Sujay.
Hey everybody, I have a really special, really special show for you guys today. But like you know, my name is Jay and we're Aspired Podcast, and today I have the beautiful Stella B. Stella, introduce yourself. Come on, tell me about you. I can't hear her. Hold on. Give me 1 second, Stella. Can you hear me?
She can hear you. So that's who I am to everyone.
That's who you are. Well, I wanted to say how we met because it was kind of like God is good and he never puts anyone in your life unexpectedly. Well, unexpectedly all the damn time, but not I went to Austin's Coffee and I heard your poetry and you were like, hey, I wrote this book. This is my story. And it was a rap. I was like, I love her. I'm in love with this girl. And like, no, I mean, you were reading a poem and I was crying in the back like a big old baby because I'll own it. I was. And I had my friends with me and I was like, I'm going to go up to her. I'm just going to go up to her and speak to her. And the rest is kind of pretty much history. But I want to jump in. This one, I'm going to give a warning. Like, we're going to really talk about some deep stuff. So if you're not ready to hear it, if you're not ready to, like, cry, laugh, all the above, like, we're going to feel every emotion, I'm sure, today. But I can't wait. So let's kind of, like, get into it, all right? Give me a second, guys. I'm sorry. So the pressures that come from overcoming suicide attempts. And this is literally, we're just going to jump. Like, that's a serious one. So we're just going to jump in. I want you to kind of tell your story about what led you to your, like, that day at Austin's, pretty much. Like, what were the pressures of going through what you were going through at the time? And I'm sorry.
So pressure. I think pressure is what led me to where I was.
That's where I said
So that really
word.
low.
Mhm.
Yes,
The word
pressure is
pressure.
definitely the
Yeah.
source.
Mhm.
Yes, absolutely. I had a lot of pressure coming from everywhere. I'm a single mom. I take care of my mother. I'm her caregiver. I take care of my siblings, my family, just everyone. And I'm dependable, I believe. And I found myself unable to depend on anyone else. So because of that, there's just this pressure to be right. There's this pressure to do well.
Yeah.
Oh yes, like it's miserable, and I'm under this pressure everywhere I go. Like, I'm a teacher and I'm under this pressure to, make sure every child succeeds, every child has to pass. And then when I'm at home, I'm under this pressure to it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect all the time. It has to be right all the time. And I got to a point where I realized that I wasn't perfect and I wasn't good. I wasn't right. And that broke me. That broke me to the point of suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because I want people to understand that it's not just one thing, because everybody's just like, oh, well, leave your man, like get a new job, or like, then don't feel pressured. But it's not just one thing. It's the culmination of all the things that happened. Like, yeah. I'm glad that you said it like that, where it was just like everything, you were feeling it and everything. Yes. So for a lot of people like you, and I'm going to say people like us, because honey, I was like, are you talking about me, girl? But everything everything like that. It's just like, and being the strong person, being the caregiver, being the person that everybody else relies on, people don't realize people crack, like people break. And
Yes.
it's not a break isn't instant. It's like slowly eating away
Yeah,
at you,
definitely.
eating away at you.
Hmm.
And so give me more, like, so it led you to be suicidal. And
Yeah.
I don't use the word commit. I don't use the word, those kind of words. I just say like that mentality. It was like you were in the place where you were ready, right? Like it wasn't.
Yeah.
And so I want you to take me through like your mindset for maybe a year back or 2 years back of like, because it isn't an instant thing. You're not like, oh, I woke up on a Tuesday, I'm suicidal. That's not how it works.
No.
What like really mentally, where were you going? Were you like, oh, I'm gonna be okay and just keep going, or did it start that way and end with like, oh, I'm just ready, how did it,
Yeah.
mindset wise,
So
how did
it
it get there?
you're absolutely right. It is not,
Mm-hmm.
you really don't wake up one day
No.
and
Mm-mm.
that's what it is. Um I was dealing with a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. The bills were crushing me. And especially being everyone's caretaker, I didn't have help. I didn't have anyone I could lean on. And I was working a lot. So I was teaching in the day, and then I was driving for Uber all night. So
It's
I
like
get
you got
home
to
at
make
2,
money.
3 o'clock in the morning, right? I get home at 2 a.m., 3 in the morning, and then 6 a.m. have to get up and go to work. And I was doing that every day.
Yeah.
On the weekends, I wasn't sleeping. I would do 40 hours, driving for Uber and just wouldn't sleep because I needed the
Mm-hmm.
money.
Yeah.
I needed the money. So I kept going. I kept going. Um, as time went on, I started having conversations with my best friend. And they went a little something like this: I think I am worth more dead than alive.
Mm.
And so I was telling her, hey, like, I have life insurance. I have, the house, it's an asset. I
Girl.
have this, I have that. If you sell it, get rid of it, you can take care of my kids. You can pay off all my debt. Um,
I'm gonna.
yeah.
So no, because you made me think of my best friend, and I mean we talk about anything. I've never said that to another human being though, so it made me like tear up to think like that you could say that like openly, because I know a lot of suicidal people that have just never spoken that. So like that just made me realize
Yeah.
that you were so serious. Yeah.
Yeah. I got out of like the emotion of it and I got very logical. So I was like, logically, this makes sense, right? If I die, then you have this amount of money
Wow.
to take care of my kids. Everyone's going to be okay. And right now, everyone's okay without me, right? Um, I felt invisible,
Like obsolete,
because I would,
because you
I
weren't there
just,
anyway, in the sense of like you were running yourself ragged, that maybe okay, you're putting the kids to bed and then you're not there spiritually, mentally, you're just there physically.
exactly. And even physically, I was only there every now and again because I worked so much. So it just made sense to me. I'm like, I'm invisible anyway. No one knows that I
Mm.
exist. No one cares. They use me as a bank account. Everyone is mommy this or I need that. And can you pay for this? And,
Hmm.
it really was more than I could handle. It was more than I can handle. And it was years. It really was the last 2, maybe 3 years of like, really, like, what am I? Is this all there is for me? Is it just being the
Did I
bill payer and nothing else? Is
like
this my purpose?
like that famous
And I
quote
felt
that says that's basically like, I didn't just be born to pay bills and die. Like there has to be
right.
more to this, right? Yes.
Yes. What is
Yes.
the in between? Because that's exactly how I was feeling. Like I'm like, pay bills and die. That's it. And I mentioned this, in the book, But there are people who used to always tell me like, "Oh, you'll pay off your debt. Things will get better," and all that. But in the
Ain't
moment,
nobody want to hear that. Let's just like really like so
okay,
okay. So because I have been in your shoes, not maybe to the same extent, but don't nobody want to hear like things like yes, you want to hear positivity, but it's negating what you're really feeling. Nobody's acknowledging that you feel this way. Girl, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be all
exactly,
right. Like, no, I feel like I'm not. So I wanted to
yes.
ask you since you brought that up, what did your best friend say? Like how did she navigate through that? Because it is very this is different. I never heard someone openly be like, "Yo, I could die and this is the plan and we can do this." Like I've never heard that. So how did she react? Cuz you made me cry thinking like, "Damn, that's what she said." So what did she say? How did she react?
So my best friend is a bit cynical. she's she's
Mine
a
too,
chaotic
boo.
mess.
Mine's not
Like
chaotic, but she's cynical. I love you, boo, but it's true. Like,
for
right?
real,
That's the
okay?
yin to your yang because we're
Yes.
bubbly and we need a cynical, like, bring us down to earth person. Yeah, yes,
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
everyone needs a cynical friend.
Why
I
not?
definitely
Yeah,
have one.
yeah.
So she was, I mean, in the moment, like I said, I was no longer emotional. It was all logic. And I was telling her logically this makes sense. And she was just like, no, that doesn't make
That
sense.
you're stupid and we're
What
done.
are you
Yeah,
even saying right now?
yeah.
And then she told me that life insurance has a suicide clause, which I didn't know. So like
I
they
didn't
don't
know
pay out.
either, but I don't think of like I've never thought
Right.
suicide and life insurance. You're the first person I swear that has like thought that through. At least that I
Listen,
know. So
listen, I was like Googling and like all this
yeah.
stuff because I'm like, oh yeah, I have life insurance, it'll be fine. And they're like, nope. Like my best friend was like, no, there's a clause, there's a chance it's not gonna work. Don't take the chance, right? It's not worth it. Don't take the chance. Um, I got to tell you how she reacted after she received my suicide note. That's another conversation.
We're gonna
But
continue it.
yeah,
I want to hear
one thing at a time, right?
it.
Yeah, so I did spend probably the last 6 months preparing her for my death, and I
Mm,
was I was so sure um that this was the best decision for everyone, not just, me being in pain, but also, my children never see me anyway, and my mom thinks I'm just here to take care of her, like things like that. I'm just like, this is probably what's best. I'll get rest finally, and everyone will get the money that they wanted so bad out of me.
that that makes me so sad. But I will tell you, um, from someone that may have not thought it through like you, um, it makes me sad because had everyone known that you were feeling any type of way, maybe the story would have been different, right? Maybe the kids would have been more appreciative of the things and less. Because I know, like, sometimes I have broken down with my kids and been like, listen, guys, I'm one human being. And I have had those conversations because of other people in my life that have um, died by suicide or just other things that like now I learned to voice them. But before it was just like eating away at me. Do you feel like you would have done things differently knowing what you know now when it comes to like speaking your truth to the other people that you're doing so much for? Because sometimes they are so oblivious. Kids are like, you think they know so much and they're so intuitive, but they're so oblivious to a lot of things too.
Yeah.
So, do you think that you would have said something differently or mom chill like you know what I mean? Like cuz sometimes you got to put your parents in their place too.
Right. I listen, so I I would love to say yes, that I would have done things differently. However, there is this tug, especially being a single mom. You don't want to worry the
Thug it out.
kids,
Thug it
you
out.
know?
We're going to thug it out.
Like,
Yeah.
you see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I'm
Like,
listening.
I'm going to smile through it. I'm going to fight through it. I'm going to make it look good, in front of my children,
Sure.
because I don't want them to think that anything's wrong. I don't want them to think that their mom can't carry this, that their
Yeah.
mom is weak, or,
Mhm.
whatever the case is. So I hid so much from them. And when I could not hide it anymore, I tried to have these meaningful conversations like, hey, depression is a real thing, and anxiety is a real thing. And this is what it looks like sometimes, and sometimes anxiety looks like cleaning the whole house and not tackling the thing that you want to tackle. And sometimes,
Said that again.
depression
It's
is
true.
is on the couch
Mhm.
watching back-to-back episodes of Golden Girls. Like these are
Are you my
real.
spirit animal right now? Because
Like
that's my thing.
I
Cleaning
knew that
incessantly
from the
and Golden
moment we
Girls.
met.
And Golden Girls is
Yeah.
literally my favorite show of all time. And that's my happy place. So I'm gonna tell you, that
Yes.
is my, if I'm sad, we're gonna watch some Golden Girls. Last night I was like stressed about a lot of things. What are we watching? Golden Girls. But
Yes.
I'm glad you said that, because it doesn't always look like someone hunched over in the corner crying. Sometimes it looks like the person that's always smiling and going and going and
Yeah.
going until they can't no more. Sometimes it
Yeah.
looks like, oh, she's just having a day at home. No, like these are all truths that not a lot of people think. They're like, oh, she's fine. She was watching Golden Girls, drinking her wine. No,
Hmm.
no, like that's a problem too.
Right.
What do you think is something that you focused on the most? Was it like some people it's just like lack of self-esteem. Some people it's um failure, like the fear of failure. Some people, I could say for me, it's like genuine, I'm going to get emotional, genuine grief. Like for everybody,
Mhm.
the reasoning behind not wanting to live is very different. Do you have like one main one that was just like, I feel like I'm not doing my part, or I'm not doing my part enough for all these people that I got to take care of? And it was just genuine, like I feel like I'm slacking, or I feel like I lack all the things that people want from me. Was it that for you? Because for me, I've been through grief, and that was my trigger. So everybody has that, like
Mm.
that particular trigger, or at least I feel like that particular thing that sets them to that journey. Which one is it for you?
Yeah. Um, this is hard to
Hmm.
uh
To
to talk
articulate,
about,
yeah.
but
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
But for me it's loneliness.
Hmm. Oh, you just gave me
So
goosebumps.
I um I just always felt outside of everyone else. I never felt like I belonged anywhere or belonged with anyone. It started, of course, like really young. My parents, they treated me like an outcast, like an outsider of like my other siblings.
Get it?
And, they would say things to me like, God could never love someone like you. And, like, I just
Mm.
called me stupid and, ugly and, all these things. I struggled, because I did not see the same treatment, with my siblings.
So I'm gonna cut
Of
you off real
course,
quick because this has a lot to do. Hold on one second. Nope. No. Sorry. So it might not even be on here, but it was a question that I wanted to mention. Um, is or mention the family dynamics, and so you're mentioning that because I feel like that is nobody blames their family for feeling like. Listen, we're gonna call a spade, and we're gonna tell it how it is. You
right.
said that it stems from that because not a lot of people think that trauma that you go through as a child, even though you feel like you've healed in some way, you didn't, right? So that stays with
Mm,
you. So even though like, and I want to touch on that, and I'm so glad that you mentioned it and you're keeping it real, like, yeah, being called stupid, like I know my thing was like, oh, like I was so weird, I was different from my siblings, so I got
yeah,
treated differently. And
right.
that part, that it's like they don't even know that they're doing it to you, like that this
Mm,
could set you off 30 years later into like a downward spiral. So I really want you to tell, because some parents need to know, like the little damn, hey, stupid, why'd you do that? Or look, you're
yes.
so clumsy. Or why are you reading? Because that's weird and you should be playing outside. And why are you paying attention to words? And why are you this person? We're
Mm,
creatives by nature. We're writers by
right.
nature. So we're sensitive by nature too. and not a people.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about your family because it's huge. Like nobody talks about this stuff. When it comes to suicide,
Absolutely.
I felt and I did, but never, well, someone did this to me. Like we got to own it from now on. Like that's why I'm like I don't like to mute that kind of stuff because that's the kind of stuff that brought you here, truly. Like had you
Right.
thought better of yourself in a way, had you thought that you were worth something, from even childhood, maybe you wouldn't be here.
Hmm.
And that's the stuff that we need to hear. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to say that. But go ahead, girl.
No,
So
no,
they
you're
said X, Y,
absolutely
and
right.
Z. What did they tell you, girl? Because that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Listen, one thing that I learned is that the inner critic, that inner voice that we have in us, it started as
Was
our
somebody
parents'
else.
voice.
Woo!
It
Somebody else
started as
gave
our
you that
parents'
voice.
voice.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, someone
Yes.
else had to have given that to you. You weren't born with that. Someone, so if you are, around people who are speaking life into you and they're telling you that you matter and that you're beautiful and you're smart and you can do anything, I mean, yes, right?
At
Like
some point,
that
you'll
that is
believe it,
what.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, you are going to have that as your inner voice,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you are in a situation like I was, where everyone is talking down on you, my mother, her thing was, I'm never good enough, right? I could bring home an A minus, and oh my God, I will
Don't
get ripped apart.
you
Where
got a
was the other
95 and not the
10?
that part. Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
like I would get it's awful,
Yeah.
and she created this perfectionist in me. Um and so everything after that had to be perfect. My parents split up. My goodness, my mother uh she quit her job when I was 15 and we were homeless because of it. And my mother said that it was my fault. She said that God was punishing our family because of me and that I should work to take care of them. And it has
Ooh.
been
Sheesh.
years now, 16, 17 years of me working to take care of my mother and my siblings. 17
Girl,
years.
we got so much in common. It's not even freaking funny. um.
Listen.
Yeah. So. Damn, I relate to that on so many levels. Yeah, I was the kid that. Well, what you gonna do about it? Oh, you want to go to college, right? And laughed in your face. If you're not gonna do it for yourself, no one's gonna do it. So like, I
Yeah,
get it. It's the and then it created. Oh, I gotta work hard for these people when you should be having fun as a child. It wasn't. You never had that. You know what? If I look back, someone else is gonna get me. So I got that as an adult
yeah,
with good people around me, but as a child, the same way. It was more so. Well, if I don't work, if I don't do this, if I don't work two jobs and go to college, if I don't do that, like who's
right.
going to, right? Yeah, I get
Who's
it.
going to do it?
So it's that
Yeah.
pressure started so young that you don't have, and you
Oh,
don't get a
yeah.
break. Then you start your family, and then this pressure starts even more so because now you still have your
Right,
family, your mom, and now you have the kids on top of that. Did
right.
you, and I don't want to pry too much into your personal life, but like
Feel free.
your spouse or whoever was in your life romantically, how did that, because that added to it, girl. I know it added. You don't even gonna tell me, but it added. So how did that add to it?
Okay. So I did meet a man in high school. Um
Same.
we were, good friends.
Mhm.
And we did get married super young. We did. I got married to get away from my mom.
Yeah. Ooh,
And yeah. Okay. I got married to get away from my mother.
yeah.
So but I loved this man.
Yeah.
I loved
Absolutely.
him
I get it.
miserably. Um However, he wasn't ready for a family. And so I spent a lot of time in that relationship trying to do my best, be my best. Remember, perfectionist, right?
Hmm.
And it just wasn't enough. I mean, it didn't matter what I did. It wasn't enough. And
So
he
he.
just could not see value in me, could not see worth in me. Um,
Hmm.
and I fought, even when everyone told me not to. I fought for that relationship because I thought it was all I deserved.
It
I
was
thought I
it
deserved.
was you trying to win at, or not even win, trying to make your parents and your mom wrong. That's what it was. It was you. I mean,
Exactly.
listen, it was that. It was like, well, they can't be right about me, because if it doesn't, and I'm getting, girl, you give me all kinds of goosebumps, because I feel like
Yeah.
it's I'm speaking partially to myself, but it
Yeah.
was, you had to make sure that your family worked and that your spouse worked, because that relationship had to work, or else you'd be, your parents would be right, right? So,
Yeah.
and that kind
And
of
to hear
mind
like
f is
so
crazy. Yeah.
much, to hear that you're unlovable, I
Hmm.
mean, regularly, right? That's just a normal part of day-to-day conversation. I grew up with that. And then for a man to say, I love you, and I'm like, you do? Okay, right? So I jumped on the first
Yeah.
guy that was like, yeah, like, let's get married. I was like, okay, I didn't even think twice, I just went
and
for it.
and you
And then
never
to
thought,
find out,
you probably never thought
yeah,
that maybe he wasn't good enough for you. You probably never thought that.
never.
No.
I never considered that.
Hell no. It can't
that
be
that, that I
him.
should have
Yeah.
standards,
Mhm. Yeah.
like no. And I just wanted so bad to be loved, so bad. And I put up with whatever. I put up with infidelity. I put up with just this emotional abuse of like gaslighting and like all kinds of craziness, a manipulation. I mean, you name it. I put up with so much in that relationship because I really thought it was all I deserved. And I really wanted to be loved by someone. I really didn't care who. I wanted it to be someone, anyone.
Yeah.
And when that relationship ended, I went into this. I think that's really when the spiral started for me. I was like, wow, like I'm really not enough for anyone. I'm really um, not beautiful enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. Um, just not worthy, of something beautiful, something as beautiful as marriage. And here I am, a single mom. Just like so many generations of women, and I have to do it alone.
And
And
with the
not only that,
shame.
but carrying the burden of my mother and my siblings here and there who always need me, alone. I'm doing it all by myself, and every day alone, you know.
I I relate to that so much, but I feel like so many people don't consider that you were more worth more than that. Like you deserved more than, not even just a relationship, but just like a better kind of love, a love that would feed you in any way. Like people who go, so I went through a lot of abuse and sexual abuse when I was younger. But people that go through that kind of trauma where it's, you're it doesn't even always have to be physical. Being told day
Mm,
in and day out that you ain't shit, basically,
right.
constantly, um and then you knowing what's right and wrong, you have that battle of like, but this is my mom, I'm supposed to be
Yeah.
loved by her, I'm supposed to get,
Yeah.
like, that, because as we grow up, then we see others and we learn that it's wrong. So when I was
Mm,
younger, I just thought this is the way of being.
this is normal.
It was
Hmm.
normal, right? And then, so, but you always are living in a constant battle, because even me, and I've healed so much from my past, but even me, you're always living in a constant battle of what reality is and your perception is. And you're always perceiving
Mm,
things so differently. So whether this happened, and logically, this happened, you're a logical person, we're overthinkers. Logically,
right.
girl, I listen, I know. I met you and I was like, I met somebody that I already know. Like, yeah. So
Yes.
we're overthinkers, but we still couldn't grasp the concept of that someone can love you wholly, physically, emotionally, and everything in between for just you. But we couldn't.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't know that ever goes away. You just deal with it better with time, because it
Mm,
is something that you always have to, like I say, I tell people all the time. And even like me and my sister went through a lot of the same traumas, but we are so different in how we dealt with it. And so she's
yes.
she's more victimizing of herself, but I think she just doesn't know, she doesn't have the tools, right? I did the work. Like it's hard work to get
It
better,
is.
but it's always a battle. It is something you
Mm,
deal with for the rest of your life to decide I'm going to look at the positivity and I'm going to look at the
mhm.
better part of things. But it's not easy. You choose that every single day. Like people think, and even for you, you're choosing to live every single day. It's a choice
Yeah.
now. You have to make that decision every day now until you get to the point where you no longer really care for the death part of it. Like, I'm going to keep fighting. But everybody makes a decision every day. We wake up. What's it going to be? And they don't.
Hmm.
What a lot of people don't realize is so freaking hard to do that when all you've heard is negativity, even in your relationship. So now you're single. You got me so emotional. I'm just like, because it's similar, and a lot of I can tell you so many women that maybe they weren't suicidal to the extent of actually doing it, but who hasn't had those thoughts? Who hasn't thought,
Yeah.
like, dang, what would life be like if I wasn't here? I could tell you many that I know,
Yeah.
and many that haven't ever said it, right? So I'm gonna ask you some more. Navigating motherhood through this, because I knew you were a single mom, so now you're a single mom, and like now
Mhm.
you still have your mom that you're taking care of, and now you're dealing with how you have to present yourself to your children, which a lot of people think like it's just like, oh, you just get up every day. But if you care about being a parent, it's not just getting up every day, and especially people who deal with depression, mental health issues, to get up every day and be a parent is hard as hell when you have that.
Yeah,
So how was that for you?
absolutely. I was navigating motherhood on autopilot.
You just press play and it just went.
Listen, I was there,
Hmm.
I'm sure. My kids are still alive. You know,
Yeah.
I did something right. But like, I look back on pictures that I took
That you
and
don't
I don't
remember.
remember the moment. I don't remember the moment.
Mm.
I was so, I mean, drowning. I was drowning. When I became a single mom, my son was 3 months old. My daughter
Oh
was three
Jesus.
years old. And I'm a full-time teacher. I've got my youngest sibling at the time was only 15, 16 years old. So she's
Jeez.
living with me. I've got my mom living with me. Like, so I'm taking care of them. I'm taking care of babies, two tiny, tiny little humans. And I am dealing with
Mm.
the biggest heartache that I've ever felt. Because
Mm.
all I hear when my divorce happened, all I heard in my head was my mom, saying, see, I was right.
I was actually gonna ask you that. How was that being the single mom, still having your mom living with you, and now you're recently divorced? It's that constant. She was right, and now you got to prove her wrong again. Now you got to keep building on, oh, now I got to be the best mom I can be. Now, like I can imagine that going through your hell, like your hamster wheeling, like I call it, like it's over and over
Yeah,
and over thinking about all the things that she told you.
right. And to be, to have her living with me and helping me with the kids, and I've got my sibling that I'm taking care of, all this stuff, like I just felt like I failed. I felt like I I just couldn't do right. And nothing that I was doing was right. I buried myself. I buried myself in that time. I
Were
mean, it's
were your kids very
that was
affectionate with you? Were they like mommy, like needing mommy? Because like a lot,
yeah,
I have two boys. They're further apart in age, but it's the constant, like, that your kids need you, but the constant, because it's like where there's nobody else. Like there, sometimes you could tag team it with your partner. Sometimes, so like for
right,
you, there's nobody else. There's then the
yeah,
pressure is even added more.
uh-huh,
Did they ever
yeah,
tell
and
you they noticed something about you, even as they got older?
so my daughter,
It's always those little
she's
girls, damn
little.
it.
Yeah. Okay. My daughter is she don't miss nothing. Listen, my daughter don't miss nothing. Okay. And she was really young when I went through my partner's infidelity and just all that, the fallout and the trauma of it all. I mean, it was disturbing. And as she got older, she started picking up on when I was triggered. When I
Mm,
was triggered, I didn't want to be touched.
mm.
So she would, try to hug me or something, and I would, I'd hug her back, but I'd be flinching, and my skin is crawling, right, the entire time. And then she'd go to my son, who, didn't really understand at the time, but she'd go to my son and be like, no, 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 mommy don't want touch.
Oh
Mommy don't want
shit.
touch now. Like, no, don't touch mommy now. And and it's always been like that. You know, my
Well,
little girl, she is empathic and always understood what I needed and when I needed it. You know, she gave me space when I needed it. She took care of her brother when I needed her to. Um, and I hated that for her. I hated it so much because I'm like, I wish you had a more present mother. I wish you had a mother that could hold it together and could be there for you in a way where you're not having to take care of a sibling. I didn't want that. I didn't want that for you
I
because that's what I went through.
so that's why I'm really emotionally like my reaction is this because I was that little girl. Like you saying this, so and it made me get empathetic for a moment with my mom because there was times where like don't touch me. Don't touch me. And she wouldn't hug me. She would don't touch me, and then I have a little sibling who passed, God rest his soul, but that was me. Like you said that, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, oh no, not right now. I'll hug you. I'll give you all the hugs you need. But right now, your mom doesn't want to be touched. And but I never thought until just now her part of that because hurt people and triggered people trigger others. Just until now, I'm like, yo, what was my mom going through that she didn't want me to touch her? That's crazy. Sorry, I had a whole moment
No, it's
because
okay.
yeah.
It's so fun.
Do you ever think of that? What was going on in your mom's head? Because I always now I think like this, and this is from years of like a year and a half of doing this and hearing stories. Now I'm an empath, but I never had the empathy for her. So now I'm
Yeah.
starting to realize what was she going through or what was going on in her head that I triggered her. I feel like I triggered my mom more than my siblings, and maybe that is what it is for you. Like maybe it's she saw something in you that she resented because maybe you were the beautiful child, you were the golden star, you were something special, and she couldn't deal with that.
Yeah.
Maybe,
I
maybe.
think of my mother's miscarried dreams. She had so many
Hmm.
that she had to um, let go of, including getting a high school diploma. She doesn't have one. She wanted to be uh, a doctor. She settled for being a CNA. So she was
Mm-hmm.
a CNA for a while. She wanted to get her diploma so she could be an RN, and then from an RN to become a doctor. And
Yeah.
she had us to take care of. My dad was disabled. She had to work. She couldn't go to school, couldn't afford to go to school. And I just, for a long time, I didn't have empathy for my mother either. Cause I'm like, man, it was your job to take care of me, not the other way around.
In the sense of
Um,
like those are choices she made. How could she
right.
resent you for things she did to her life? Yes, I concur.
Exactly.
Like, why am I paying for your sins, boo? I didn't do this. You brought me into
Right.
this world. Yes, 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 yes.
Exactly. And there were moments now, like when I look back, that make so much sense. I was 18. I had just graduated from high school. I was 17, and I was leaving for college. I got a full scholarship to a school. I got an apartment. I got, everything. I was going to be a neuropsychologist. And the day I was leaving for college, she took my keys.
Hmm,
She told me that I couldn't leave.
hmm,
And I was like, what? This is not how this works, Um, and I realized it was a symptom of her own trauma and her own triggers and what she was going through and just could not articulate. And this is her way of saying, like, I'm scared, and I don't know what's going to happen to you wherever it is that you're going, or she just wasn't
Mm-hmm.
ready
Yeah.
for one of her children to leave, the nest, so to speak. So yeah, so I stayed, I one of the things that I'm working through, which is very evident in my book, is forgiving my mother.
You write, there's a poem, and it's truly like basically almost like a, what I took it as almost like that journey of starting to forgive her. Like, these are the things
Yeah,
that you told me growing up, and these are the things that I felt from it. But you know what? I'm not gonna do you the way you did me. Like in short ways, yeah.
exactly.
Like I had to learn to forgive her, and sometimes I feel like I go revert and come back. Do you
Yeah,
have those
yeah,
moments? Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Forgiveness is a choice. Like, it's a daily choice.
girl.
Daily choice. You have to, like, decide every day, like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to keep moving forward. It really is a daily choice.
Yeah.
So it's heavy, but I not only had to forgive my mother, she also lives in my
I was
house.
just about to ask you. I was like, there's a, I have a lot of forgiveness toward, I always say, the lady that gave birth to me. I do
Yeah,
forgive her, but I don't keep her around. So like I have
right.
to give you all the praise, because that it takes, I'm not that tough. Like, I'm just going to keep it real. I'm not that tough. To watch someone take care of someone day in and day out, knowing the things that happen to you. She may
Hmm.
not be, because also you're an adult now and you made your choices as well, right? She may not be the end
Right.
all be all of why, but she's the one that started the cycle. So like,
For
and she didn't
sure.
stop it. So maybe she went through similar things that she didn't stop, right? That's how I feel with my mom, is that we went through, like, maybe you were sexually abused, maybe you were abused by
Hmm.
she didn't get raised by her mom, so an aunt, maybe that happened to you, so why would you continue that with me? That's what I don't
Yeah.
I still haven't forgiven her for that, the choice to continue the cycle. So now I broke it, right? Now I feel like you've broken it, and whether you've gone through all the mental health issues that you've gone through, we all have. Now your
Right.
story is of triumph, so that you can tell your kids, like, look, I did go through this, but I didn't treat you in the same way. Like, I'm proud of
Mm,
that. I'm proud as hell of that, that my kids didn't get the abuse. My kids don't know what that kind of trauma looks like. Like, I know that I stopped it there. Did my siblings, did that continue? That's their story and their trauma towards their kids. Like, I
right.
can't say that it was a family thing, but I feel like your mom, just like my mom knew, we would be the life changers. And that's why
Yeah.
we were so triggering to them. I
Yeah.
feel like because we knew better and we're trying to do better, they were angry at us. I feel like I
Mm,
enraged my mom.
mm,
Looking at me enraged her. I was everything that she wasn't. And I stood on that. You know what I mean? Like, I still
right.
stand on that, and that's what enraged her the most. Like, I don't think that they thought we were nothing. It's because we were something. Like, now I learned
Um,
that we were something, and of course she's gonna keep you down here. You can't be
yeah.
better than her, right? So I had to learn that
Mhm.
lesson. A lot of therapy, and a lot of, like, I'm a very spiritual person, so a lot of that too, like knowing who I am and learning that and standing on it. Do you
Yeah.
do you so I want to talk about, and this is probably where, like, if y'all got children or if you're emotionally, I really want to talk about because it was more than one time you tried. Am I right? I want to talk about, like, the mindset of maybe even just the first time when you attempted suicide. Like, where were you? How were you? Because you said you wrote letters, like, you had everything. So it's a thought out process. So I feel like if I were to do it, it would be in your way, because it would be like very, oh, what about the kids and where will they be and this and that. So like, I want you, because I know that there are people that would view this who have gone through it or might want to. I want them to understand how difficult that one moment, that one time, that day is for someone who decides to do this. And I'm gonna get my tissue because I already know. And take your time, girl, because we're not on a time crunch. But I really want you to like express that because I feel like that's what people don't talk about. Yeah, I was suicidal here and there, and they don't express like that mindset of that one time, the time you're actually doing the act, whether it's a gun, pills, I mean, all kinds of carbon monoxide. I can't even think of all the ways you can kill yourself, but I want you to describe that. And sorry, because I'm having a moment.
Oh, it's okay. Okay. Where to start? I did not feel like I had a choice in all the pain that I was given, but I had a choice on whether or not to suffer through it, you know? And I was like, I'm not. And just being one of those people that can't see a way through, can't see a way out. There's no light. There's no like, there's nothing. There's just more pain. And I hear people say like, no, this is temporary and it'll get better. But I'm like, listen, I have 30 years of proof that it doesn't get better.
The pain
That
is still here.
it just get no, the pain just multiplies, right? Like I have years of proof. And in this instant, the most recent, um, I sat down, it was on a Tuesday. I was with my kids and I got on my phone. I texted my best friend and I told her, hey, I'm going to send you the passwords for my Google account, my bank account, and my cell phone because you're going to need that just in case anything happens to me. And I started typing out the passwords. And then passwords turned into here's what to do for my funeral.
Mm.
This is what you should do for my children. This is what you should do with, my debt and, my this and my that. And just detailing everything. I've been on mental health, drugs for years. I was like, oh, they don't work and they don't this, they don't the other, right? But I have a cabinet full of just years of pills that I've tried that didn't work. And I think I resented that, you know, I resented that I reached out for help. Here I am going to a psychiatrist and I'm going to a psychologist and all that and didn't help. And I was like, you know what? I think this is it. And I was dead set, dead set. Um, it was a week before the school year ended. So I was like, well, I need to at least see the school year through, like I need to at least live that long. Um, I have this tradition that I do. I write love notes to my students and I just wish them well. I ask God for the words, of course. And I give them something, like don't be a firecracker. Like, like just always be yourself and love who you are and things like that. I'm a words person. So I'm like, I have to at least live long enough to give the kids the letters,
You
right?
know
I
what's
need to get
crazy?
the letters.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. That
Oh, it's okay.
what's wild, but I get it, is that you would still speak life into everyone when you're lifeless. Because you don't have to, like, that made me have a whole moment. But, like, you like, I have to do this because this is my tradition. I want to leave
Yeah.
something behind. I want to leave them with the words that you wish you heard when you were growing up. Now continue. I'm sorry, but that was just like, wow.
And you're exactly right.
Hmm.
And I think so highly of my children. And like, I'm like, you don't have people in your life telling you this. That's crazy. You're brilliant and you're smart and you're funny. And, so I speak those words over them while I did not have it myself.
Hmm.
There was no one around me in my corner or anything like that that was speaking those words, to me when I needed it.
When you needed it the most.
Um, so I started giving things away.
Mm.
I started giving things away. I was calling friends. I was, messaging family members. I was like, hey, I have this really cool, this, and this. And, I'd love to give it to you. And whoever it was like, yeah, that's great. That's
They're not
amazing.
picky.
I'd love
Yeah.
that, Um, and I have a gorgeous royal blue quill that I absolutely adore. And I called up a friend and was like, hey, I sent him a picture of the quill. I was like, I have this, I love this thing so much. And I love you.
Mm.
And I want you to have this. And he said, are you okay?
Because sometimes you don't have to speak the words for someone to get it if they know you well enough, right? Or
And they know, right?
that's why I pay attention to unspoken things with people, because it's not about what they say.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Woo.
And he saw like right through me, like in that moment, and just knew. I was like, no, of course I'm not okay. I give up. I'm done. But I want you to have this, Can you do me a favor and just take it, like, and just don't forget me.
Mm.
Don't forget me.
Yes.
And he refused. He refused. He said no. He said, you deserve beautiful things too. And I heard that and was like, what?
What is he
He
talking
said, you
about?
deserve life. You deserve to live.
You deserve to live.
And your life matters. And you have purpose. This is not it for you. Don't stop here. This is not it for you. And I reached out for help. Now, I reached out for help reluctantly, I was still writing my note. I was still counting the pills and trying to figure how many it would take, And
when you got that message from him, and when you were counting pills, because I'm just like, I don't feel like that would be my choice, like my way to go, obviously. But did you have like moments of like, maybe I shouldn't do this?
No, at that point, no. No.
I kind of knew your answer, but I wanted people to know, like, you were past
I
the
was
point of
I was
like
so
return.
sure.
Yeah, you were so sure.
There was I was past the point of no return. I was so sure. Yeah, I was so sure. I knew how I was gonna do it, what, where I was gonna be, what time, I had a plan. I had a plan. And I was just there was nothing he could have said. Although now I can see it for what it is, which is his love and genuine kindness.
Mm-hmm.
But in the moment,
like, boy, you're just telling me this so I don't kill myself, really, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's exactly what it is.
You're like, okay.
And he,
yeah.
I mean, he was trying for days, because I wrote the note over the course of a couple days, and because it had to be just right,
And your
I'm a
note
perfectionist.
and your note to, like, even, what's crazy? Even in your untimely death, right? If it were to happen,
Right.
you were thinking, well, I got to get shit right. Like, it's never,
Right.
Which is, well, when reading your book, I was just like, she's still, like, even your letter to your friend, which is in the book.
Yeah.
Guys, you got to get her
It
book.
is
And
in
we'll
the book.
We'll talk
Yeah.
about the whole thing. But even in that, I was having moments of being mad at you while I was reading that book, because I was like, what is she think? Why is she thinking about this? Like,
Right.
You thought of things that I don't know that I would have thought of. You thought of things, but it was thorough, and I'm just like, part of me always thinks when people do that is because they genuinely don't want to go. They're thinking
Don't
of
want to
X,
go.
Y, and Z to do all the things. Like, oh wait, I'll wait till the school year is over. Who the hell thinks like that, right? But
Yeah.
I feel like you were battling between the pain that you were feeling, and logically you knew that you should still be here to do all the things
Yeah.
that are needed of you, or else you wouldn't have a checklist. Or, like, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
you,
There was a checklist.
honey, I know, I know. There's a whole checklist, and I'm like, nobody that is ready to go thinks like that. So I feel like you
Yeah.
you weren't ready for all the things that you knew you had left to do, but then it
Right.
was the pain and the overwhelming sense of I can't do this. Like, and everybody thinks it's so black and white. Nothing in life for me is black and white. There's always that shaded
Mm-mm.
area. So you literally lived in that shade. You literally lived in the gray area, and that. So I don't know if you want to say this, but you mentioned pills. This is the way that you were doing it, right? Is this the
Yeah.
attempt? This is the last attempt. So
Yeah.
so
The last time.
now take us to, you attempted with pills. What happened from that? Because that's kind of how I met you,
Um,
just a few months out of
yeah,
that. Yeah,
that is
genuinely. Yeah,
how
yeah.
we met. So I did go to a mental health clinic because I knew I was not safe. And I was honest with them. I was like, yes, I'm suicidal. Yes, I have a method. Yes, my life is not worth living. So they started digging as they do, asking questions about, different parts of my life and things like that. Um, and I'm like, see, this is evidence. This is
Like, it's
proof.
obvious I should be dead.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
here you
yeah, yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah,
Right. Like, here you go. This
yeah.
is proof. And after I spilled my life to them, they were like, yeah, you can't leave. We're going to need to keep you. So what was originally a week turned into 2 weeks turned into 30 days. I spent 30 days alone at a mental health clinic, and loneliness is my trigger. So here I am alone. I'm like, oh my God, I'm miserable. There's no way I can't do this. Um, and as time went on, after the first week of being there, that's when I had that realization that I didn't want to die. I just wanted the pain to
To stop.
stop.
That's what I wanted you to say.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because I know that from reading your book, from talking to you, it wasn't about the actual death. You just were so overwhelmed with so much pain, because I've been there. That's why I wanted you to say that, because if I've been there, you've been there, how many people haven't? Where
Yeah.
it's overwhelming sense of sadness for all the reasons, but in your heart that you should be here, or else you wouldn't be, right? Like, I really am a
Um,
firm believer you're here for a reason. Everybody is, right? So I knew you didn't
yeah.
want to die, but I knew that you wanted all the pain. So in that month, you were writing this book, right? In a month,
Yeah.
guys, first of all, I'm just going to congratulate you, because in that month you wrote this book. You took something so, like, one of the worst things that I could ever think of, like someone wanting to not be around, is one of the worst things I could think of. Like, and one of the saddest, and turned it
Mm,
into a story so that it could be a guide. Like, there's this quote, like, like, okay, I'm gonna overcome all the things so that it could be someone else's survival guide. And I feel like you did that. So I really, like, you should be really proud of, if nothing else, that, because it really is, like, I felt like I knew you. I feel like I know your story just from that. But lonely, it is lonely. Did you realize that maybe in the being alone sometimes is where you get to know who you truly are?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Not just get to know myself, but get to know who God is.
Thank you.
Get to know,
Amen.
like, who He wants me to be, what the purpose was. I needed silence, and not the permanent kind
Yeah.
involved in death, right? But just silence enough to hear God's voice and to better understand what I'm doing here. Because I really feel like he's been telling me for a while,
You were just
and I
lost in
just,
other
yeah.
voices. Yeah.
And I'm hearing so many other things. I'm like, no, Lord, I'm going to fail. No, this ain't going to go right. Like, no, this is not going to work. Like, that's all I'm like, God's giving me, like, no, I gave you a gift.
Hmm.
I gave you poetry. I gave you this gift. What are you doing with it? What are you doing with it?
He put you in a position. Oh, I'm getting chills. He put you in a position to start learning to use it. That's all he did.
Yeah.
He was like, "All right, so I'm throwing things at her, and it's not clicking. This is what I like. You needed that, and
Right.
I didn't go through going to a mental institution, but I definitely silenced some noise. And once I did that and started even listening to God through your own voice, like sometimes He just gives you the words, sometimes He's giving you the thoughts, and you're just like shutting them off because you have other thoughts, other intrusive thoughts, right? But until you finally are like, everybody shut the hell up. And like you could focus, and that, I mean, that's even trauma healing. That's what therapy is. It's like you start to silence the noise and start listening to your own voice too. um
Mm.
Damn, that's so crazy because that very similar. It was just like once I wasn't hearing my mom's voice, and she
Yeah.
wasn't my inner voice, and other people weren't my inner voice, and that's what it is. Then you even start to know yourself as a different person. Like, this is who I
Yes.
always have been, but look, there's this aspect that I had no idea because I silenced it because someone told me to. Someone told me I was stupid, so I was stupid, you know? That's
Right.
what changed in your life. Girl, I'm so happy you're alive, by the way. And I told you that the first day I met you because um gosh, when you read, and it wasn't that you read your poem, it wasn't that you just said your story. It was just like the feeling I got from hearing you, and the pain I still saw in your face, in your eyes, but also the hope that you said with a smile. Like, girl, because you got a vibrant ass smile. Like, beautiful. You see, I'm just saying, but I saw the good things too. I saw your pain. I felt your pain. I mean, you had, I was, shout out to Javi and Melissa, but we were all kind of just like, damn. And I said I have to get up because I want to tell her so. Like, and it just came to me, like, I really was super happy to have met you and to know even a glimpse of you. At the time I didn't know it would be this, but I was like, I want to tell her I'm so glad that you're alive, and I wanted to give you a hug. And I feel like I'm so glad that you went through that, and not for the pain, honey, but like because now comes the triumph. Now comes the
Yeah.
good parts of your life, right? And now,
Yeah.
like, you're not like, everybody's like miraculous healing. You don't just heal from these things. It's not like just like, okay, the 30 days and now you just like, yep, I'm great. It's a work, and you're putting in the
It
work,
is.
and it's every day, and you're doing all the work, and even inspiring other people. So like, I know that you have other things going on. So tell us about your book and where they can get your book, and then all the other things. But I got her book,
Okay. Okay.
guys.
Yes. Okay, so the book is on Amazon. So it's called Poems from the Mental Health Clinic. So I literally wrote it while I was in the mental health clinic. I published it the day I got out of the mental health
We gotta
clinic.
talk.
I
That's
just
amazing.
felt it, yeah, it was just the most triumphant, moment that I could have had was, man, I survived. I survived. It's one thing to survive, other people want you dead, but it's another to survive wanting yourself dead.
Mm,
And
damn,
just there's nothing
that's a
just
quote,
more
girl.
incredible. Yeah, it's powerful. So yes, if you would like to read this suicide note that I wrote, it is in the book, as well as several poems that give details on the signs of anxiety, personality disorder, and depression, and what could potentially lead someone to consider suicide. So, all of that is in the book if you want to check it out. Um, I also host a poetry show. Well, an open mic, really. I call it a poetry show because it's mostly poets, but I do host an open mic. Out here in Port St. Lucie, Florida. And even greater than that, because God granted me this beautiful gift, I really, want to give it to others. I've decided to host a conference. So in the month of March of 2025, I will
Let's
be
go.
hosting a women's conference. And Jay, you better be there. Okay.
Girl,
Yes.
it's nothing but a 2-hour drive, if that. So I'm good.
That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I'm
Just
good.
come on
Yeah,
through.
exactly.
But I am hosting a women's conference for all women poets. So there's going to be some fellowshipping. There's going to be some workshops with like some of the coolest names in poetry, and we're just going to heal. I have therapists that are going to be on site.
I
I have
love
a
it.
wellness coordinator. There's yoga, meditation, everything, as well as game nights at karaoke and open mics and
I
stuff like
dabble a
that.
little in
So
a little singing. No,
yes,
I do
girl,
not.
you better get
I know.
it.
But I wanted to ask you, because, like, you're doing all these beautiful things, and I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud because
Thank
it would
you.
have been easy, even after surviving, to revert and to be quiet and be silenced. But you're speaking and using your voice for good, and I always am such a champion for that. But I also wanted to ask you a question, and this is probably for the younger people out there, is that what would you tell the little girl you? Not not anything, like, not even knowing what you know now, but just a little girl in you, to maybe have avoided her feeling like she wasn't enough. Like, what would you tell your younger self, even back then, even while in the institution, even all of that, to maybe help navigate what you were navigating? Because it starts from, like, your story didn't start when you were an adult and your man left and he cheated and all. It's a whole life story, right? So people don't understand that it's that. So the little girl in you deserved something from someone. What would you have told her?
I would have said your voice is powerful.
Mm.
And that is why so many are trying to silence you.
And
And had your voice not been powerful, there would be
it's a
no reason at all to downplay you, to attack you, to
Woo.
call you stupid, to tell you you're not smart or any of that. Like, those people are threatened by the incredible power behind your voice.
You left me a little speechless, but I'm gonna keep it moving because, yeah, that that nobody tries to silence someone that doesn't have something good to say.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
just doesn't. Woo, girl. Okay, I'm gonna let you tell them where they can find you. I'm gonna wrap it up because you just, like, you said something to the little girl in me. Thank you. I really thank you for that. Um, where can they find you? Social platforms, all of the things. Where can they find you? And um, she's in Port St. Lucie. If someone's out there, she hosts something. Is it weekly that you do? Your
It's once a month,
once a month. Okay.
third Wednesday.
Okay.
Third Wednesday of the
I'm
month.
gonna
All the
have to
information
do
is
that.
on my Instagram, which is Life with Stella B.
Mm.
So LifeWithStella B as in boy. Also, my Instagram for my show is Step the number 2, the Mike PC. Um, all things about my show are there. All things on Life with Stella B are about, my journey and, what this looks like now that I am on this side of a suicide attempt. And just the beauty, of still being here,
I
waking
love
up
you.
every
I
day,
love your
being
page.
grateful. Yeah. Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
it's it's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being on. This won't be the last. Like, girl, I'm gonna see you in March. I'm gonna see you. I probably, I'm gonna try to manage, uh, an open night. It's right in the middle of the week, but maybe all things are possible, right? Like,
All things.
all things are figure outable, as my son says. So they are. Thank you for being on and sharing your story. Girl, I love you. You know I love you.
It was a privilege,
Thank
Jay,
you.
for real. I love
Yeah.
you too. And thank you for having this and for having me and for listening. I truly appreciate you.
Nah, girl.
Thank you.
You got all the love from me. This is Inspired Podcast, and I'm Inspired Jay. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Love ya. Bye. Bye, fam.